yesteryear. Now, today I wanted to speak about a famous rabbi. His name was Harav Moshe ben Mordechai Shenduch. Zecher Tzadik Libracha. Now, I believe he passed away in the year 1744. We're talking about just over 280 years ago. I'm not too sure the exact date when his Hilula is. If anyone knows, has more clarity on that, please let me know. But he was a president of the Baghdadi community, Jewish community over there, and of the congregation in Baghdad, which was very, very prominent at that point in time, especially during the early stages of the 18th century, and had various other prominent roles over there. He was I think he had a rural connection, let's just say, to the treasury over there also, and did huge amounts of importances at that point in time. Let's explore a few of the highlights of the great rabbi's life. Now, he came from great heritage. His father's name was Mordechai ben Avram ben Sosun ben Avram ben Sosun. I believe I pronounced the name correctly. Shindoch. They were, I think, it's interesting. The family itself was very, very, let's just say, prestigious in the place. I think his father was a first president known to us in Baghdad, and various different. I'll state what it says actually in Hebrew over here. Nolad Mordechai ben Avram ben Sosun ben Avram ben Shandoch hu hanasi harishon hayidua lanu bebaghdad. He's first well-known president of Baghdad. V'achokeh ben Yaakov misha'ar ki gam Mordechai aviv shel Moshe kihen kenasi v'acharon kibel zot menu b'Yerusha. Okay, very, very interesting enough. So it actually says Motze mishpachto haya knir'eh meparas sheken he konta betoar agami. I believe that's what's actually stated over here. So I think they're of possibly Persian origin, the family itself, also known as the Jami, let's just say, itself, or Agami, as you can pronounce it. And there was presence in the family, and yes, that's very, very interesting. So we'll just progress, stay more within regards to him. I'll say it in Hebrew over here, what's chronicled over. Hektish yachad im hagvir nesim gabai. He was very interesting enough. Aron Kodesh lebeit knesset shliad kebe Ezra Sofer. I think there was Aron Kodesh in the synagogue, which is right next to the famous burial plot of famous Ezra HaSofer. Obviously, the book of Ezra is featured inside the Torah, Nevi'im, and Ketuvim, respectively. There was famous Gvir, philanthropist of the name Nisim Gabai over there. V'chen beno השניים, מעון, כנראה מעין מרכז קהילתי לצד קבר זה. כמו כן, תרמו להוצאת ספר נתיבות שלום. I think this is in Constantinople in Turkey, in Taf Kuf Bet. לעזרא בן יחזקאל הבבלי. החזיק מספר רב של מלומדים יהודיים בעיר. Very interesting enough. So that's, I'm just stating over what it says over here. They would contribute to various publications, built a residence, I think a community center over there, which would actually have many different various different Torah scholars in of itself. And yeah, I think there was a book called Netivot Shalom, which was printed in Constantinople in Turkey in the year 1722. Okay, let's continue. I think it was come what the year 1743. It was very famous. I think it was actually reported over. We've actually mentioned about this on various occasions before. I think there was Ahmed Pasha. We spoke about this in another video connected to another rabbi. I'll say what it says in Hebrew. בשנת 1743, in the year 1743, הלשינו עליו בפני המושל Ahmad Pasha ונגזר דינו למוות. They gave let's just say a death decree over there. יהודי בגדד פדו אותו תמורת 200 כיסים. They would give over a ransom to bring him back of 200 כיסים, I believe it's going. וכן נאלץ סנדוך לבטא לפחה על חוב של 700 שק כדי שיבטל את פסק הדין. פאשה שלח אותו לעיר חילה כדי שירכוש מזונות לטובת בגדד, והוא נשאר בו כחודש. בהמשך אותו השנה היו רבני עיר בין ההורגים באסון שאירע בבגדד, וסנדוך שלח איגרת לרפאל שלמה לניאדו. Rav Shlomo Laniado was another famous rabbi. I think he was Harishon, also known as the first one, who was a famous Dayan and rabbi in Chalab in Syria, in Aleppo in Syria, respectively, one of the great rabbis of his town. Rav Raphael Shlomo Laniado, Harishon Aram Sova, וכאשר שיבחר מרבני עירו ששימש קרב בבגדד. בעקבתו קריאו זו הגיע לעיר צדק חוצין הראשון, שכן קרבי ב-30 שנה. Okay, so in a nutshell over here, I think there was Ahmed Pasha would sentence would give there was a sentence of decree of death over there, and the Jews of Baghdad ransomed him for 200 sakes at that point in time, and he was forced to give up, I think, a large debt also to the Pasha, Rav Sanduch was, so that this decree would be nullified. And there was later, so you could see there was a lot of anti-Semitism there at that point in time. And Rav Shlomo Laniado, another famous rabbi from Aleppo, will actually come in also and would be called up at that point in time. He was famous rabbi, as we said before, Rav Laniado in Chalab, in Aram Sova, in Syria, respectively, also. And they would choose eventually, I think, the requests of the rabbis, I think, also connected to Aram Tzava with regards to Aleppo, choose rabbis for the city to serve as the rabbi of Baghdad, and would be serving, I think, for about 30 years, it's reported, over. Very, very interesting enough. So that's very interesting. So as I say right at the end, בעקבות קריאה זו הגיע לעיר צדקה חוצין הראשון, שכן קרא בעיר 30 שנים. He'll be 30 years. The rabbi over there. He passed away in around the year 1744. I think his brother, Rabbi Yecheskel ben Mordechai Sanduch, would, let's say, inherit this position as a president, let's just say, for a period of time. And it's interesting, his grandson was Rav Sasson Mordechai Sanduch, who we're going to speak about also in due course. But very interesting, Rav Moshe ben Mordechai Sanduch himself was a president of the congregation of Baghdad for many, many years. You can see during the early part of the 18th century, and various different and prominent roles in the area itself, respectively. So, we've spoken about him on various occasions before. I want to speak a bit about his grandson also, because he was a rabbi we also spoke about way early on, I believe, in the series. We spoke about his grandson, which we also have to point out over here. So let's speak about him. His grandson's name being Rav Sasson Mordechai Sanduch. He actually lived himself between the years 1747 and 1830. So he was born actually, I think, 3 years after Rav Moshe had passed away. He would go on to become a famous rabbi once again in Iraq. He'll be a payatan. He'll be a meshorer. I think much can be. It's actually interesting. His father's name was Mordechai. So Moshe, I assume Rav Moshe would have had the son Mordechai, who was obviously the father of the grandson, Rabbi Sasson Mordechai Shandoch. His mother's name was Rabbanit Farcha. So that's very interesting stuff. He was born in Baghdad, Rav Sasson was. And it's actually interesting. Yeah, so he was, I'll just say what it says also with regards to Rav Sasson Mordechai Sanduch. It testifies of him in this article that Rabbi Moshe ben Mordechai Sanduch, who we're speaking about here in today's videos, Shimesh Kanasi Kilat Baghdad, Kilat, that at the start of the 18th century would be the president, as we said before, from and he was, let's say, the head of the treasury of the rulers of Baghdad, obviously passed away in 1744. Now, it's actually interesting that Rav Sasson Mordechai Shandoch, I think it was in the year Heitav Kuf Ein Bet, that would be approximately around the early 1800s, possibly around 1810, 1811, if I'm not mistaken, was put inside a very, very prominent position of the Kehillah in Baghdad, very prominent position over there. He would be a supervisor of inscriptions within regards to Kiddushin, within regards, he was a cantor in the synagogue, most famous synagogue over there. He was Baal Koreh, he was a Chazan in Beit Knesset Gadol Baghdad, very prominent position. Rav Sasson Mordechai Shandoch over here. He would be the author of various different poems, songs, Torah songs in of itself, and many of them are used by the famous Iraqi Kehilot in of itself. And it's interesting. I think he would go on himself to have many, many great descendants, let's just say, in of itself. I think, so it's interesting, we're speaking about Rabbi Moshe Sanduch today. He'd have many, many, many great descendants who become the great scholars in Baghdad among the people over here. We'll state what it says over here within regards to the family in of itself, within regards to the Sanduch rabbinic dynasty. We're just talking about here now using the article of Rav Sasson, his grandson, who asat sorot mishkan im krashim v'adanim b'kol klei hamishkan nisha keresh echad etzel harav Shimon Mordechai metzatzav vaya melamed va'ebot letalmidim im hadanim shayu asuyim ma'oferet b'parshat Truma gam asat sorot bayit shlishi al bad ava vaya metzuya alav צורות הבית עם המדות והפסוקים בכתב ישוע בין העם עם צבעים, והיה עשוי כמדד גבוה ורוכב שדה האחד שבית הכנסת גדול אשר הוא היה חזן שמה. It's just talking about basically speaking about the greatness of the family and what they actually did they set themselves. It's actually interesting. I think one of the descendants will be a famous woman who was very, very knowledgeable in Torah. Her name was Rabbinit Flora Sassoon. Let's say something about her before. We've heard about her herself. She lived between 1859 and 1936, was also a famous philanthropist and Hebraist, and was, you could say, a well-known scholar. I think she actually came from the Gabbai family itself and was born in Bombay in India. And her father was Ezekiel Abraham Gabbai. So it's actually interesting. So I think she was also a descendant, if I'm not mistaken, of this famous family. And it's interesting, she would get married to Solomon David Sassoon, who lived between 1841 to 1894. And very interesting, he happened to have been the great grandson of David Sassoon, lived between 1790 to 1864, I believe. So there was various different great generations. If I'm not mistaken, other great rabbis who also descend from the Sanduch family in of itself that we also have to point out over here. So it's interesting. I think he would have a Rav, going back to Rav Moshe here, that his grandson, Rav Sanduch, would have a daughter, I think, that would, I think her name, if I'm not mistaken, of the daughter, would get married to Le'eved Li'izro ben David ben Eliyahu Rielda, if I'm not mistaken, and various different great descendants. I think one of the grandsons was David Chai Melamed Mualam, who would also become a great person over there. And there was various different, let's just say, great descendants in himself. Now, Rav Moshe's grandson, Rav Sasson, would have great Torah books, including Sefer Kol Sasson, which was a great book in of itself. There was a Davar B'Oto, Mizmor Le'asaf, Divrei B'Ito, Imrei Sasson, Tihila LeDavid, and Merhal Nefesh Elina Dachayai. So really, really great rabbis will actually, let's say, blossom from this famous family in of itself. So that's what we have to point out also. So it was one of the famous families, Shandok family itself. Also, we spoke about here, Rav Moshe Shandok. We're not too sure the date of his Hilula. He was passed away in 1744. And, much more can be said within regards to him. He was connected. Many of the great descendants would actually come from him. I think there's a famous man named Avram Ben Yaakov, a famous historian, will actually write a lot about him. He himself passed away, I think, in the year 2005, and will chronicle over various different writings within, especially the great rabbis, let's just say, from Baghdad in of itself. So friends, over here, we're a community here. We're learning about famous rabbis of yesteryear. Another special edition, we're speaking about the famous Rabbi Moshe Sanduch, who was a very, very great rabbi, a president. He was in Baghdad, from a family of presidents in of itself, respectively, which we also have to point out. And if you descend from any of the great Chachamim we are speaking about over here in today's series, please send me an email. I would love to hear more information on the famous rabbis of yesteryear. If you feel anyone is interested in watching any of these videos, friends, please share these videos also to other people also, and join this community now. We're going from strength to strength at the moment, and we spoke about a president here of Baghdad, of Iraq, very important. We'll leave over various different great rabbinic descendants, especially that will become, let's say, the fabric of the Baghdad community in of itself. Now, I'm not too sure if he had actually a rabbinic ordination itself, Moshe Sanduch, because I did say he was a rabbi, but without doubt he was very, very close to many of the great rabbis, and had various different important roles over there, and we leave various different great descendants also. We also have to point out. So friends, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We're nearing at the moment a staggering 7,500 subscribers, which is a phenomenal achievement. At the moment, we don't just record videos on great rabbis or Jewish personalities of yesteryear. We are also, let's say, recording videos with Jewish personalities of modern era, of current time period in of itself. Now, it's actually interesting. There's a whole article within regards to the famous Shindach family, I believe, in a special Jewish encyclopedia from, let's just say, the great people from the Islamic countries. I think it's from the Brill.com website. It's actually entitled Encyclopedia of Jews in Islamic World Online. So they would have like much more extensive information on him over there. So friends, thanks very much for watching. I'm actually recording this at the time of the fast of Gedalia, the 3rd of Gedalia. So everyone, wishing you a Gemar Chatzima Tova to everyone that is watching, and a safe fast to everyone. And please subscribe to the channel and join the community. Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks, appreciate it.